Hello and welcome to the first episode of Essk Explores on the @Zalia channel. I'm Essk, also known as Sarah, also known as Mrs. Zalia, and today I'd like to explore Ubuntu on Windows. But first, a little bit of background. I first started tinkering around with Linux back in the early 2000s, and in 2015, when I retrained and switched careers, I just ran Ubuntu on my PC every day for the whole year pretty much. Did everything I needed. But times change. Suddenly, it was 2016, Satya Nadella had been busy turning Microsoft on its head. Windows 10 was out, it looked great, and I really wanted to try it. That, of course, led to the rediscovery of my languishing Steam collection. After that, rebooting from what had rapidly become my Steam box over to Linux anytime I wanted to mess around with code felt really slow and clunky, and it was pretty inconvenient actually. So I started to look at alternatives. Okay, so I can just about find my way around with this. It's a little bit, well, no, it's a lot clunky. I don't find the commands make any sense at all. I mean, if you want to copy a directory in Linux, it's cp -r. Of course, that's not recognised here. You need to do something called robocopy with a /e. I think that's going the right direction. I'm not sure. I don't care. Give me a bash prompt. Don't get me wrong. Windows does have its upsides. For instance, if I'm working from home for a client, I can easily jump into the various Photoshop, Illustrator, Word, Excel documents that are sent to me by the designers, copywriters and project managers that I work with. And then there's Internet Explorer. I mean, no, that's not an upside. But being able to test a website or a page on IE alongside Edge and Chrome and Firefox all at the same time, that's brilliant. As I mentioned before, gaming is a thing. This is my personal machine. It used to be a pretty decent gaming rig. These days, it's just about adequate. But thanks to my Steam habit, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that Windows is going to be part of my tech ecosystem for quite some time to come. What can we do to make development on Windows easier? As it turns out, quite a lot actually. As I was researching this episode, I came across about a whole another video's worth of content there, so I'm going to skip over that, and perhaps we'll cover that in the detail it deserves in another episode. For now, I'll just show you what it is that I do when I'm working from home, or if I find a really cool idea burning a hole in my brain. So this is a pretty standard 1604 installation running LAMP on VirtualBox Virtual Machine Manager. Nothing particularly sexy or wonderful about it. The only thing to note is the way I like to run things is with vhosts, and what I'll tend to do is symlink files from my local Windows into the virtual file system, so that my Windows programs have access to them, but Apache still picks up on the changes and serves everything up like it should. So from there, let's bring up this WebStorm project. Now I have a shortcut to Git Bash programmed into WebStorm, which gives me a very nice command line. And this is all set up, so I can just gulp. And straight away, Browser Sync kicks in, opens up Chrome for me. That's lovely. Same time, I can also open up Edge and Internet Explorer, all showing the same thing. Now, if you've worked with Browser Sync before, you'll know what's coming next. Let's pick a colour. Of course, also if you've worked with Edge and Internet Explorer before, you'll know they don't always do what you want them to do. Let's try that again. That's better. Okay, so this working pattern is quite typical, certainly a way I like to work. I make my changes to my CSS or my layout, I have a look, see how it looks in the various browsers, almost with immediate feedback, and make my changes, iterate on. By and large, I find that setup works very reliably, although it does need quite a lot of setup to get it working just how I want it to. The network settings in VirtualBox are quite pernickety, especially if you're moving between networks, which makes it a pain on a laptop. In general, I find the the permissions, just the file system permissions, necessary for sharing files and doing the symlinking between Windows and the Linux VM are just a never-ending source of gotchas. It's a pain. But it gets things done. When it works, it really works. It's great.
Here I've taken the liberty of snapping a few stills of the current project I've got going on. I've taken this tatty old craft box and I'm sticking a Raspberry Pi, an old 3.5-inch desktop hard drive, USB 2 variety of course, and a screen I picked up from AliExpress to make a small, cute little media player. It's designed to be mounted the other way around, but you'll see all that coming up shortly.
What's this? Ubuntu? On Windows? On the Windows Store, no less? Let's explore. Derp alert! As I was editing the episode, I noticed I had completely forgotten to mention some quite important information about getting Ubuntu for Windows 10 installed. The first thing to know is that you need to be running a preview build of from the Windows Insider program. I'm currently running build 16241. If you're not in the program, then these buttons here will give you a link to get started. Secondly, in order for the installer to run, you'll need to enable the Windows subsystem for Linux. Now there are some instructions here, but they're quite straightforward and I'll just run through them quickly. So what you want to do is go to Control Panel. From there, Programs. Turn Windows features on or off. Scroll down the list. And the subsystem for Linux is here, and that needs to have a tick in it. Then you're all set to get going with the installer. Okay, so this is all launched, installed and set up. Let's have a look at what's happening here. So I'm starting off with my home directory, no surprises there. Oh, this is interesting. Looks like we have access to our C&D drive under the mount point stuff things. Good. Aha! Now, if I bring up my old friend, the Windows command prompt, and run ipconfig, we can see we've actually got the exact same IP address. So for all intents and purposes, this is localhost, no network shenanigans. I've gone ahead and installed Node using the instructions at DigitalOcean. By and large, I find their documentation is excellent. It's crystal clear, and while there are some platform-specific details, generally it will work for you. What I'm going to do is make a symlink from this somewhat familiar looking folder name into our Ubuntu instance. So let's see. ln -s mount C, and then from there I think it is it's users, isn't it? Users, Sarah, and then it's VM shared. This time it's WinBunty demo, and let's make that into a folder, well, a symlinked folder called projects. Okay, and there's our symlink just sitting there nice and happily. Now if I bring up my PAL web store, now that's the virtual Ubuntu, so what we'll want to do is actually open different project, albeit with a very similar name. And here we go. Now this time, instead of running Node in Windows, we've actually got Node running in the Linux instance. So if I cd projects, okay, so that wasn't actually the best name to choose, but this will do. And run gulp. Okay. Aha! I haven't run gulp yet. Go me. In fact, I don't think I've done npmi yet. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, so npmi has done its thing. Let's run gulp. Okay, so no automatic opening of browsers, so let me just fire up Chrome here. There we go. And Edge and Internet Explorer are falling in line. And let's do something good here. Perfect. So we can follow pretty much the same pattern as we were with the virtual machine. I imagine you can probably get a lamp stack into this environment, albeit it can't be backgrounded or run as a service very easily at the moment, if at all, in fact. I don't think it... Microsoft certainly don't recommend that you try. It also doesn't have any kind of X server, so you're just stuck with the command line. That's fine with me. But by and large, I think in the future, this is probably going to replace, or at least live alongside, the virtual machine as another string to my bow. It's quite lightweight, it's minimal setup, it just runs, it integrates very nicely with the host machine. You know, it is the host machine in effect. And honestly, I have no complaints after this limited amount of exploration. I'll probably be doing a few follow-up videos on this, seeing if we can get LAMP up and running, see what can be done to run anything as a service, and we'll update you when we can. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments below.